Greetings, all you space sailors out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hi.
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 3, Episode 22, Explorers. Or The Explorers? I think it's just Explorers.
I think it's Explorers. There's no the.
Yeah. Alternate title, Someone on the Writing Staff Watched Kon-Tiki.
My alternate title, I came up with one this week.
Oh, okay.
It's Master and Commander Sisko.
Ooh, very nice. I like it. Far side of the Denorius belt. I was going to call it like Kon-Jaki or something, but I felt that was going a little too...
A little bit.
Too deep. Title review?
This is another one of those, like, we picked a random word that could apply to, like, lots of different episodes, and this one would probably not be at the top of my list of episodes to call Explorers.
I don't know.
They're not exploring anything in particular.
True, but I think it kind of fits. I definitely don't think, like, 3 months from now, if you say, like, what's Explorers about, I bet I'd still be able to remember it's this one. So at least it's not like they're not trying something too cute or deep or confusing or whatever.
Yeah, it's true.
Our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. It'll just be like little stuff. Like, Garrick will continue to be in the series and stuff.
Will he, though?
We won't reveal anything too big, like the episode when it turns out the whole station's been replaced by changelings. But they weren't in on each other's plans, so they don't realize that each other is changelings, and they just go about their business running Deep Space Nine. It was a pretty crazy episode.
It was a perfectly average episode until the very end, when suddenly everyone figured it out.
It's just like the real crew shows up, and they're like, hey, we were on vacation.
Yeah, everyone was on vacation.
This episode originally aired May 8th. 1995. It was written by Renee Echevarria, story by Hilary J. Bader. I think we've had her before, right?
Let's see. She did the story for Rules of Acquisition.
Oh, okay. That is the Lady Ferengi. That's another problem title, is you got to think about which Ferengi episode is which.
It's true. Oh, she also did the story for Battle Lines. That's the one where we lose Kaiopaka on the planet of forever sucking. The
one with Mike from Breaking Bad. And directed by Cliff Bull. So, last week we had David Livingston, this week we have Cliff Bull. Just, the old pros are on deck.
During production, this episode was known as The Butterfly Episode, which, I don't know if that's a better title than what they used, but I would remember it if it was called The Butterfly Episode.
Was that the name of their ship, the Butterfly?
No, the ship is named in the script, and it is called Baraka, which in the script Sisko explains is Swahili, and it means good fortune, although it can also mean blessing or prosperity. Huh. And there's actually there's a note in here about the Star Trek customizable card game. When it released its Energize set in 2003. This would be 2nd edition, which I did not play. Special pairs of starships and their matching commanders were released as a promotion to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the game. And one of these pairs was the Baraka and Benjamin Sisko, shipwright, whose alignment was Bajoran instead of Federation.
Ah, nice. Yeah, as it got further and further in the episode, I was like, did we never learn the name of this ship? So... Also, it's a little weird that it's a Swahili name, not a Bajoran name, but...
Yeah, Sisko, what are you going to do? Yeah. He's not Bajoran.
I guess. In this episode, Dr. Bashir is at Quark's bar working on something when he is approached by a Dabo girl named Lita, who, wouldn't you know it, has a little bit of a cough.
I swear, it's really seemed... I was like, are they already dating and they're like doing some like role play type thing? Because the acting seems so bizarre to me.
Nah, she's she just knows how to play the game, and he does too. So
apparently, this actress Chase Masterson had auditioned for the role of Marta.
Sure.
And in the episode The Abandoned, but then Avery Brooks was directing that episode, and when he saw her, he was like, "No, she's too old to be my son's girlfriend." And so they kicked her to the curb, and then she got this role, which was intended to be a 1-episode appearance. So this was going to be her only appearance. Will she appear again? Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, Bashir gives her a brief examination and breaks the news to her. She has advanced lung cancer and only weeks left to live. But Jadzia swoops in and starts messing with him. Bashir is almost able to get her to go away with his clever, little pad plan.
I actually really love that, where it's like, here's that thing that you asked for. And she looks at the pad, and in giant letters it says, "Go away." I was like, man, have we ever seen a pad used like that on the show? Like, I don't remember ever seeing, somebody actually write a thing on a pad and read it.
I mean, I assume you must be able to.
Yeah. Oh.
But he's almost got rid of her. But at the last minute, she drops the seemingly insignificant news that the Lexington is expected to arrive at Deep Space Nine. This breaks Bashir's concentration, resulting in a surprise double reverse cock block for both Bashir and Lita. Lita's like, "Wait, what? Where are you going?"
Well, he's like, "Hey, you wait here, I'll be right back." It's not like he's gone that long. I assume he goes right back to flirting.
Oh, you think so? I don't know. I think his mind is on one thing for the rest of the episode. But as icing on the cake, Dax gets to needle Bashir about, "Isn't the medical officer on that ship the person that beat you out for valedictorian at Starfleet Medical?" And he's like, yes, she is. So I gotta say, excellent trolling, Dax. Bravo.
Yep. Pretty solid.
I salute you. She is truly a master of the craft. Back at the Cisco residence, Jake is doing something furtive on a pad when his dad comes home sporting a new goatee. So I think Commander Cisco might be having a midlife crisis, but whatever.
That would explain
a lot.
Yeah, come to think of it, because one of my biggest deals with this episode is what is this? Out of nowhere, he becomes super obsessed with doing this thing for no reason. That would explain it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I guess he got more interested in Bajoran culture after that whole prophecy episode.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But at the same time, it's there's a pretty big jump from Bajoran culture to is interesting to I am determined to hand make my own Bajoran spaceship and fly it.
Yeah, that is pretty intense. I have to admit. But yeah, he's super hyped. He's just been at a library opening on Bajor, where he found ancient plans for a space sailboat. Apparently, there are legends that the Bajorans were exploring other planets 800 years ago, and might have made it as far as Cardassia. And Cisco intends to build a sailing ship and test it out.
I do like Jake's thing about oh man, so when the humans were just learning to cross oceans, Bajorans were flying through space, and I think you're a little bit off on those dates, but
yeah, when they were first crossing, the European age of exploration, they hadn't just invented boats.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's fair. Maybe Magellan, that would have been about the right time period.
Yeah, Columbus and Magellan and all that stuff was going on. So, remember this is the 23rd century, so you gotta subtract 800, and I don't know.
Isn't the 24th century? Hold on.
Oh yeah, 24th century. Yeah.
What's the year here? The year in the show is
2370. Yeah, it's 2371. Okay. So we're going back to about 1571. So
yeah,
yep.
Okay.
But Cisco is excited to get to work building his ship in the cargo bay, which I guess he's going to have his people clear out or something.
Yeah, it's there's all these boxes, and he's like, yeah, as soon as you guys clear all this stuff out, this will be great. I'm going to personally, as the commander of the station, commandeer this cargo bay. I ordered a bunch of wood from Bajor because I'm going to build my wooden spaceship. Also, you need to make me a bunch of tools. I'm just he's really using a lot of resources and space here that he's just unilaterally decided that he's going to get.
Hey, he's the commander. You got to do what he says. Get rid of those barrels that have Klingon symbols on them. We don't need those. I'm sure nobody cares about those.
No, it's fine.
But Kira is interested and possibly hoping for an invitation. But O'Brien is quite skeptical, much to Kira's annoyance. Apparently, the concept of ancient contact between Bajor and Cardassia is very controversial, and the Cardassians have gone to great lengths to suppress it.
Yeah, it's not like O'Brien's trying to argue that, like, you never made contact with Cardassia or whatever. He's just like, I think this particular ship doesn't seem all that safe. And, but honestly, like, it seemed weird to me when I watched the episode. I'm like, I feel like O'Brien would be the one on board with, like, tinkering around and building a cool spaceship.
Yeah.
So it was weird. And then it says, in the original story pitch by Hilary Bader, Miles O'Brien is the one who is, like, building a thing, which makes way more sense to me, honestly. But then it was, the producers decided, we want a father-son episode, so we're going to use this for that.
See, my pitch for this episode is it should be the whole crew. Like, Kira's there because she's Bajoran, and then Bashir's there to get space sick and be comic relief. It's like everybody teams up to do this fun project or whatever, and then O'Brien is skeptical at first, but then, you know, he'll watch Sisko do something. He's like, no, they wouldn't do it like this. They do it like this. And then before long, it's like Sisko has to, like, almost stop him from, like, intervening at every possible juncture. And then, you know, that would be a cool little, like, arc for O'Brien on that.
Interesting.
And then, you know, he goes from, you know, skeptical to super gung-ho by the end of the episode. But anyway, I had this whole, like, alternate version of this episode that I had in my mind that I'll get into later.
Apparently.
But yeah, so Sisko figures if he can at least get the ship out past the Denorius belt, he will have done enough to prove it was possible. Then we get a nice little, like, welding and sawing montage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think somewhere in there, Sisko says he put in a gravity net, but he kept the zero gravity toilet.
Yeah, he's really weird about it. It needs to be exactly historically accurate, except for the part that I don't like, and that I don't like zero gravity, so I'm going to...
Yeah, except for the part that's hard to film.
But yeah, also, I'm going to... It was so bizarre that he's like, I insist that there's gravity, but I also insist that the toilet be authentically no gravity.
Right. It's like, is this toilet on the ceiling or something? Like... Yeah, maybe redesign the toilet.
I mean, yeah. Who they're gonna be like, no, your attempt to prove that it's possible fails because of the toilet.
Obviously, you could do it with a gravity toilet. Ugh.
I mean, honestly, I think that the having gravity on the ship calls into question whether they could, like, it's much more difficult to do without gravity, I feel like, but whatever.
Yeah. You know, I'll let him have it. It's hard to shoot, like, a whole zero-G episode.
It would be expensive, and this thing calls out that somebody's like, yeah, so this was kind of, we're trying to do, like, a bottle episode.
Uh-huh.
And I was, like, David Livingston says, it was like a bottle show, but an interesting bottle show, with a father-son relationship, some computer graphics. And I was like, I don't feel like it counts as a bottle show if you had to build this whole expensive new set.
I don't know. Maybe it was an easy set to build. I don't know. Maybe it was left over from some other stuff.
So this comment is interesting because he's like, we were reluctant to do computer graphics, but Peter Lorretzen finally came around. He recognized how valuable it is. You can do more stuff with the ship, but you have to do it right. Not to pick on other shows, but Babylon 5 looks like computer-generated imagery, while Voyager and Deep Space Nine, you may not know some of these shots are not motion control shots.
I mean, there were definitely some shots I feel like I could tell I was looking at some computer-generated imagery, but... sure.
I was like, I don't want to pick on another show, but let me call out the other show that our competitor famously.
Let me use this opportunity to dunk on the, like, one show that we're always getting compared to.
Yep.
But, Sisko invites Jake to come along with him on his voyage. However, Jake doesn't want to because Leanne is going to be coming back from Bajor, and you know what that means. So, I guess he salvaged the whole Leanne situation from the ROM or the Nog double date disaster.
Yeah, I'm impressed that there's anything still happening there.
Or maybe he's going to try, you know. Dax pays Sisko a visit while he's working on the ship and is happy to see him wrapped in a project like the time he built Jake's nursery. So, a little reminiscing scene there.
Yeah.
Back in the Sisko house, Jake gets a mysterious but apparently happy message from Wellington, New Zealand. He heads down to the cargo bay and tells his dad he wants to come along on the voyage after all. So, man, what could be going on in Wellington, New Zealand?
Who knows?
Home of Flight of the Conchords. The years, what's the song? The year 2000. The distant future, the year 2000.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Bashir seems to be a nervous wreck about the upcoming visit of Dr. Linz, the lady from medical school. He tells Jadzia that the Lexington was the coveted assignment for everybody in their class, and Linz got it. His first choice was Deep Space Nine, but it bothers him that she could have taken that if she had wanted it. As long as she's around, he'll always feel like he's just second best. So at this point, I'm like, are you going to, like, kill Dr. Linz?
I have to. She can't be around anymore. He said before that, like, being second in his class, he got, like, his pick of assignments. But it's weird to me how assignments work in Starfleet if you're medical, apparently, where you can just be like, yeah, I want to go there. And then they're like, all right, then, you go ahead and go there. Like, that's not how the military usually works.
Yeah, it's like, okay, all right, valedictorian, what do you want? It's like, all right, salutatorian, what do you want? Oh, I'm sorry, valedictorian already took that. I don't know. I mean, in real world medical school, you don't even get to pick, or there's this whole complicated system for how you get assigned your residency. Like, you list out schools that, like, your preference of schools, and then the schools list out their preference of people, and it all goes into a giant supercomputer that spits out assignments.
Huh. Well, I mean, it's not like he went for a residency. He's not being supervised by anyone. He went directly to Chief Medical Officer of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, medicine obviously, I guess, works different in the future. I don't know.
I mean, he may have gotten a medical degree and then, like, done that and then gone into Starfleet. I don't know how it works.
I mean, it could be some combined, like, you know, medical school or residency program or whatever. He just turned 30. I'm not even going to do this math.
No.
I'm not going to mess with it.
I wonder if I wonder if it talks about him in his Wikipedia article, like if he went to medical school somewhere other than Starfleet. Hold on, we're gonna see. Childhood at age 6. I don't care. Gonna be a tennis player. No, it seems to jump straight to Starfleet Medical Academy. Although I don't know that we'd ever heard it called Starfleet Medical Academy. I just Starfleet Medical. I feel like, but whatever.
Yeah.
So yes, he went to Starfleet Medical Academy. I guess that's where he got his medical degree.
Sure. And then once you graduate from there, you're good to go.
I guess so.
So Sisko gets a call from Gul Dukat, who strongly discourages him from undertaking a very dangerous mission. But Sisko's unmoved, and he and Jake are soon on their way.
It's so random that Dukat's like, you totally shouldn't do this, but I don't mind Dukat showing up in an episode, so I'm good with it.
I normally don't mind Dukat, but this is not a job for Dukat. This is a job for, like, Gull Steve from the Ministry of Debunking Bajoran Fairy Tales or whatever.
I'm so curious about how this comes up for Dukat. Was it just like his bosses are like, crap, this Sisko guy's going to go do something we don't want him to do. You know him, right? Yeah. Call him and talk him out of it. And Dukat's like, he's not going to let me talk him out of it. Just do it.
It's like, he's, come on. We just, like, accidentally declared war on the Dominion. Can we, like...
This is true.
Can we, like, focus on other priorities right now? Yeah, they deploy their sails, and Sisko familiarizes Jake with the hammocks and the space food and the zero-gravity toilet, which is on the ceiling or something. Sisko explains that they will be tacking upwind for a while, which I'm not sure how that works on a spaceship with no keel or rudder. But, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, it works somehow. Whatever. So, the illustrator Jim Martin, it talks about in here, he's like, look, in reality, a solar sail would need to be, like, several miles wide to propel a ship this size.
Sure.
But we needed to take it into the realm of fantasy. So we kind of just, we did our own sort of thing. Also, Renee Echevarria told the designers that it needed to have a Jules Verne look, with a wooden cabin, with brass and stuff. Oh, yeah. And so that's why it ends up looking the way it does.
Yeah. It was a little Jules Verne looking, I'd say.
Yeah. Ira Stephen Bear is in here, and he's just like, Renee Ashvari did an amazing job on this. Really wonderful script. Avery was wonderful. The ship itself, all this. And he's like, it was probably how they felt about the time machine from the 1960 movie when we went on stage and walked on this ship. It's a great little piece of equipment. I said, don't throw this out. Don't trash it. Keep it somewhere because this goes in a Star Trek museum someday. It's just a great prop. And I can almost guarantee that it got trashed.
Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, once they've settled in and taken the time to enjoy the silence and marvel, although there was like kind of some ambient noise, which kind of bothered me, but maybe that was just my headphones or something.
What bothered me was he's like, listen to that. That's what they must have heard, like on those sailing ships. I'm like, no, actually the ocean's pretty loud.
Well, I thought he was talking about the Bajorans who originally sailed on the space.
No, like I'm not gonna go back. He specifically says it's like what the old ocean people would have heard, something like that. I forget exactly.
But yeah, and then he's also like, but instead of sailing by the stars, we're out among the stars or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jake nervously shows his dad a story he wrote. We cut to Bashir's infirmary where he is nervously rearranging stuff. And Odo comes in and informs him that the Lexington is docked and Dr. Linz is in Quarks. And that's episode for Odo. So enjoy your rest after the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, right.
I'm surprised they even made Odo be in the episode, but
he gets his little like dig in at Bashir and like gets to look at him in his Odo sassy way.
Yep. Then Bashir sits with O'Brien and Quarks while trying to work up the nerve to go talk to Linz.
They both creepily stare at her for a long time.
Yeah. And Quark informs him of a bet he has going with Morn about how well the meeting will go. However, when the moment comes, Linz walks right past Bashir without even acknowledging him. Back on the ship, Sisko finishes Jake's story and gives him some gentle, constructive feedback. He's like, you're writing about, like, all the stuff about sex with Davo girls is spot on, but the Maquis battle sequences feel a little fake. Which I guess this is some kind of, like, Maquis action story or something.
I guess, yeah.
And then Jake trolls about, it's like, oh, I can't talk about my time with the Maquis. Then Jake tells Sisko that he got a writing fellowship at a school in New Zealand. Apparently he showed one of his stories to Keiko, who showed it to a friend, and then thankfully that's cut off when one of their sails falls off or something. They're able to scramble and save the situation, but Sisko is worried they might have to turn back. However, Jake keeps up the spirit and encourages him to keep on.
Keep on keeping on.
It's like, yeah, the Bajorans wouldn't have given up.
Also, I want to set you up with a girl.
Right. Well, I'm getting to that.
All right.
So then we cut to Bashir and O'Brien getting their drink on at Bashir's place. And O'Brien tries to cheer up Bashir by saying that he doesn't hate him.
Well, he's like, you're a person that people either love or they hate. And I used to hate you, but now I don't hate you. Which implies, by the transitive property, that he loves him. But he can't say that because O'Brien is a manly Irish man.
Well, that's not the transitive property, but...
whatever. I feel.
That's the...
Also, there's a bunch of notes about this scene. Because apparently it was a whole thing. First off, the liquor that they are drinking is a scotch called Wee Bairns.
Okay.
So that apparently comes up later, including like in Star Trek Discovery. I guess it carries over there somehow. It's
not that whiskey, that weirdly real seeming but not real whiskey from Star Trek Picard.
No. Okay, and then so they're singing the song Jerusalem, which Colomini and Siddig El-Fadil picked, but it was their third choice because they were the producers determined that their first two choices would both have been too expensive to try to license for this scene. So first was Louie Louie, and then Rocket Man.
Yeah, probably an Elton John song would not be cheap. We're trying to keep this low budget, guys. Didn't you see that giant battle we had in the last episode? Right.
That's you gotta balance that. And so Siddig El-Fadil is like, yeah, Jerusalem is very familiar to both of us. It's like an anthem in England, and it's something that drunk people might sing. So
yeah.
But Colomini says that they were concerned about this scene Because it was the first time this sort of scene had ever been done in a Federation situation in Starfleet.
Well, where two guys have gotten drunk or something?
Yeah, they're getting all drunk and like whatever. He says, we're all supposed to be so well behaved, and we were aware that it was a bit risky, so it was a question of playing this scene just right.
I could have sworn we've seen people get drunk before, like on Next Gen and stuff.
That's what I was thinking. But then, let's see. There's a comment from Ira Stephen Bear is talking about this scene. He was very happy with it.
Uh-huh.
And he says, that was a scene that I pushed for. Every couple of shows, I'll have a scene that becomes a baby that I nurture, and this one was just so human. It had friendship, it had vulnerability, it was funny, it was sloppy. It's that stuff that Deep Space Nine had helped bring back into the Star Trek universe. The Next Generation was very serious at times, and I understand that it did a lot of wonderful things, but it had a very self-important air to it, so finding things that work against that is very important to me.
Well, ISB... You're such a cheerleader.
Yeah, so there's some different perspectives on this controversial before it was filmed, but I doubt anyone ever heard anything about it after.
Nobody watching cared, I guarantee. So, oh my gosh, people are drunk on Star Trek? I'm writing my congressman about this.
Yep.
So we cut to yet another scene of... Oh, and if I didn't say it, Bashir resolves to go talk to Linz, but tomorrow, because he's like too drunk to stand up right now.
Yeah, he wants to do it today, and O'Brien's like, you really should wait.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. Then we cut to yet another scene of cranking, which leads to more father-son time. I've not really expressed how much cranking is in this episode. There was like a solid 2-minute chunk of just cranking, but... Jake says he's not going to school yet, and then Sisko thinks that he's worried about homesickness or whatever, and he tells him the story about how when he first went to Starfleet Academy, he was homesick, and he would beam home every night, but he got over it really fast. But Jake reveals he's not worried about himself. He's worried about leaving his dad all alone. So you see, he's worried that it's been a year since Sisko has been on a date, and that turned out to be a ghost or something.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the reference that was being made, or if there'd been some other dates we hadn't seen.
Possibly. I mean, like if that was your last date, that's, not super great.
Well, I could see how that would put you off dating random women for a while, though.
It's like, you know what, I'm just going to spend some time on me for a while. Because of this, Jake has committed himself to the task of setting up his dad with a special lady friend. But suddenly the ship shakes and another sail falls off, but they look out the window and see that they seem to be moving at warp. They drop out and try to figure out what happened, deciding they must have gotten caught in a tachyon eddy. Sisko realizes that the sails give them extra surface area, which, yes, that is how sails work.
Yeah, that's the whole point of sails.
That is the principle behind sails. Unfortunately, they don't know where they are, and the fancy space sextant is smashed.
They really should have locked that down somehow.
Yeah, you need to put
That's
that
your
in
own fault.
Put that in like a pillow-lined box or something. That looks important. Sisko tries to call the station, but he gets no response. Maybe they got carried farther away from the station than they realized.
They're lucky they didn't end up, like, hey, is that Voyager out there?
That would be bad. Closing up the gripping Bashir story, the good doctor approaches Dr. Linz at Quark's and introduces himself. And it seems she had thought he was Andorian. Somehow, she went through this years-long intense rivalry without ever seeing what he really looked like.
Yeah, that was a little bit like, you guys didn't have any of the same classes, or...
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But the two hit it off and go back to Bashir's infirmary to look at research or something.
And she tells us, the Lexington wasn't that great after all.
Yeah, the Lexington, that was a boring assignment, so...
I kind of wish I'd stolen yours.
Yeah, I wish I would have cock-blocked you out of your assignment. And then Morn pays Quark for their bet, which was 3-1, so good job, Quark. Back on the sail ship, Jake is worried about running out of air, but Sisko assures him that there is no danger or stakes in this episode at all.
It'll all be fine.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not that kind of episode. Sisko asks to hear more about this mystery woman, and agrees to meet her as long as Jake doesn't base his decision about school on him. But Jake has already decided to wait a year to build up some more experience on Deep Space Nine. Like maybe he'll go join the Maquis for real or something.
Yeah, that'll help.
And then suddenly they look out the window and they see some Cardassian cruisers outside and they're like, oh no. But then they get a call from Gul Dukat, who magnanimously welcomes them to the Cardassia system, where it just so happens archaeologists have discovered the remains of an ancient Bajoran ship. So, wow.
See, this really brings up something for me that one of my first thoughts when he starts building the ship, and then when we see the ship, is it's made, at least the inside is made out of wood, I guess. But I was like, okay, so, you know, the ancient Bajorans made these ships to sail interstellar distances or whatever, fine. How does it leave or re-enter an atmosphere?
Right. This is a very good question. Maybe they just put it on a rocket. I don't know. But yeah, the Cardassians give them a little fireworks show, and Sisko and Jake hug and smile at a job well done. These two humans who have done this triumphant thing about Bajoran history. The end.
Go, emissary, go.
You see, like, Gul Dukat is just totally the wrong guy. It's like, this needed to be like a stuffy old Cardassian archaeologist who, like, tracks the progress of their mission, and he's like, at first he's like, oh, this is ridiculous, Bajorans, but then as they, like, get farther, he's like, oh my goodness, they're almost to the Denorius belt. And then by the end, he's super impressed. And then it would, first of all, be less weird and, you know, more satisfying that this guy is like, wow, amazing job, welcome to Cardassia, or whatever. And so, like, Gul Dukat is like a villain.
Yeah.
Like, he was the prefect of Bajor. He was a bad dude. He's like, oh, good job proving that the Bajorans made it all the way to Cardassia.
There's one thing in here where Andrew J. Robinson, who's not even in the episode, is commenting on the episode, and he says that talking about the Gul Dukat and what he's up to, and he's just like, Gul Dukat here is like this prime example of how Cardassians represent the reptilian portion of the human brain, because his whole thing is like trying to discourage them because it's about territoriality. He's like, you stay out of my territory, and I don't know that I agree with that, but
yeah, I think he knows about the ancient archaeological site or whatever, and he's just, you know, trying to either at the bidding of the Central Command or whatever, just try to keep this from working. It's
so weird that they even care.
Yeah. yeah, like, especially like as a member of the government. That's why I'm saying it should be like, you know, like an archaeologist or something from Cardassia.
Yeah, like so somebody's written some books about how Cardassia was first in spaceflight or whatever, yeah, and has some sort of stake in
like he's devoted,
like the military's like, yeah.
He's devoted his whole life to like the history of Cardassian space travel or whatever, and refuses to believe it. But then he's like won over in the end. Like that would be, that's way better.
Yeah. Why does the government care if Bajor can say like, oh yeah, we traveled interstellar distances before the Cardassians did? Okay. Yeah. We do get the one weird factoid that I don't think we've ever heard before, where O'Brien's like, you sound like a Romulan. There's no piece of technology the Romulans don't claim to have invented first.
Right. I don't think we've ever heard that before, and I don't know if we're ever going to hear it again. So.
Yeah, it's just random that the Romulans are like... Now, I think in the original series, you did see some of like Chekhov claiming the Russians did everything first.
But you never see, like, the Romulans being like, oh, I see you're wearing shoes. Romulans invented those, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And, so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, and the Klingons claim Shakespeare, but that's a different thing.
I'm still pretty sure, like, Shakespeare was some sort of, like, multi-planetary being or something like that. So, any more good nuggets in the Memory Alpha?
No, I think I hit pretty much everything.
Oh, really? So you just want to jump straight into ratings then?
Yeah, we can do some ratings, sure.
All right. Well, how would you rate Explorers?
Okay, so we got two storylines here.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where they have nothing to do with each other, and I will forget, like,
oh yeah,
Bashir's B story was related to this A story in any way.
Yeah, there's no way anybody will ever be able to connect these.
And there's some funny stuff in that B story.
Sure.
But by and large, I just don't care about either of these stories. Like, I find it very hard to give any shits about whether Bajor got to Cardassia first or not. Like, especially after the last episode where the stakes were so high, having this like ridiculously low stakes 2 stories, I was like, oh no, they failed. I guess they'll have to go back to the station and no one will care.
And also there's like no mention of any fallout from what happened last episode.
No, yeah, which
and Michael Eddington is just gone again.
Yeah, he's off reporting to the Admiral, or I don't know what he's doing. But and I still feel like it's really weird and out of character to suddenly give Sisko this obsession out of nowhere. I don't know that we've ever seen anything that indicates. I mean, he worked at Utopia Planitia, so I guess he's interested in ship design. That's the one hint that I can think of that he would want to do something like this.
Yeah. Well, apparently, yeah, he helped design the Defiant.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, and it's not like any of it is bad. I can't point to any of it and be like, this is dumb. This doesn't make really sense. This is bad. It's just, I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to decide whether it's like just barely above the line or just barely below the line for me, because my feelings are not that strong. I guess I would say, since I can't point to any number of things that are like, this is bad, I guess I will put it just above the line.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, I think I do like the premise of a sailing ship. Although I agree, it's weird that Sisko comes with it out of nowhere. So, like, again, this should have been like we start off with a lecture on Bajor, right? And some Bajoran historian is giving a lecture about these ancient sailing ships that, like, flew to Cardassia or whatever. And then this Cardassian archaeologist stands up. He's like, that's ridiculous. And the Bajoran is like, no, it's not. We have the plans for the ships and everything. And then the Cardassian guy's like, well, you want to build one of those and, like, prove it? It's like, oh, I didn't think so. And then suddenly the camera moves over and we see Commander Sisko standing there, and he stands up. He's like, I'm willing to give it a shot, or something, you know? Something
Okay.
like motivated. And then, like I said, I think the whole crew should have been involved, not just Sisko and Jake. You can still do the father and son stuff with, like, the whole crew being there. Like, it's fine. And, you know, the design of the ship was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool looking ship. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't object to any, like, Ben and Jake father-son time, and, like, Jake wanting to become a writer but being worried about his dad. Like, all that stuff, you know, it feels pretty true.
That part may actually be, I didn't even mention it, but that may be my favorite bits, where it feels like Jake's story at least is progressing.
Yeah. Jake has another hidden talent that we never heard about before.
Well, I mean, we found out that he was writing love poetry, so it's like an extension of his writing.
True. And Morna's in the episode, so that's a positive.
Yep.
Okay, negative. Nothing happened in the episode, and it was boring. I already talked about how Dukat was the wrong Cardassian for this episode. Should have been Gull Steve or Archaeologist Steve or whatever.
Make it Gull Massette for some reason.
Yeah.
That would be confusing.
It's like, oh, you know my cousin, Gul Dukat.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of that Bashir story, other than what I guess Ira Stephen Bear said about friendship between, like, some nice moments of friendship or whatever.
Yeah, that seems to be the only thing that means anything in there.
I mean, I definitely am not engaged by his weird, obsessive rivalry with Elizabeth Lenz.
We find out that Bashir was forgettable in college and
right.
had an Andorian friend.
I think this shows he's a little overly self-important. When he was in medical school, he maybe thought he was a little bit more of a big deal than he really was.
Yep.
So really just the boringness. Like you said, there's nothing bad. There's nothing where I felt like the writers were like doing something super offensive, like offensively lazy, or just trying to pass off a really bad story or something. But it's just boring, I feel like. So I'm gonna put it just below the line. I'm gonna put it at a lieutenant.
Okay.
Because I mean, there is some nice stuff, but it's little gems in this kind of like long, dull. It's like, oh, let's crank the cranks for 2 more minutes. It's like, oh my gosh. Don't forget to lock the crank. It's like, oh my gosh.
You can never get enough cranking.
This is one where I was checking the time. It's always bad when I'm checking the time to see how much is left. So I think that's its final condemnation that it just goes below the line.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, full lieutenant.
Okay.
So man, yeah, what else we got? Not much.
No, I mean, I honestly think that we got more discussion out of the episode than I anticipated that we would, because it really there's not anything going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's really like nobody references Kon-Tiki or anything in the.
Oh no, yeah, that is in there. Hold on,
okay.
I just you kind of... Okay, well, hold on.
So are they honestly trying to pass this off as a totally original concept?
Yeah, no, it says it's like there's not additional details that I felt like were interesting enough to go into it. But 1 second.
Sure.
Let me go to this note here. So it says that okay, so yeah, it says the light ship and the basic plot of the episode were inspired by Voyage of the Kon-Tiki, a deliberately primitive sailing craft that Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl used to sail from Peru to Tahiti in 1947, substantiating his belief that it was possible that pre-Columbian South American civilization could have settled Polynesia, making a transoceanic voyage.
Okay.
So it's like, you said at the beginning, like somebody watched Kon-Tiki, and I was like, that basically covers that note. Like, we don't need to get into the details of Kon-Tiki.
But that's just the editor of Memory Alpha pointing that out. Like, none of the writers have owned up to that, have they?
No, I don't think there was another mention in here of that. There, it does say that, like, it talks about the original pitch being O'Brien, but the original one was a spaceship with primitive engines. And then Renee Ashvari is like, so Hilary Bader proposes that. And Renee Ashvari is like, wait, why don't we make it like solar sails? Wouldn't that look cool? And Hilary Bader's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then Ronald D. Moore comes in and he's like, okay, so, but what if it was like, this was not an episode about like humans, but it was about the Bajorans, and we'll tie it into the treaty with the Cardassians and see a different side of Sisko here, that he's really into something for personal reasons and wants a father-son project. So they go out and bond on this ship, and Jake's getting older, and Sisko realizes that Jake has other interests and he wants to be a writer. But what's holding him back is he's worried about his dad. And so I thought that would be a nice character moment. And then Renee Ashvari was like, oh yeah, that's great. Let's put that in there.
Huh.
So I like that Ronald D. Moore is like, yeah, basically a lot of the story was mine. Don't...
The actual good parts of the story I came up with. Don't be fooled. Because I was totally getting a vibe, like, remember Meridian, and it was just like Ira Stephen Bear, somebody saw Brigadoon and just really wanted to do a Brigadoon episode.
Yep.
That was kind of the vibe I was getting with this episode, or somebody saw Midsummer Night's Dream and they want to do a Midsummer Night's Dream episode. I feel like these are usually
maybe that happened.
Like recipes for disaster, but all right, want to wrap it up there, or
yeah, sure.
So yeah, a little relatively short discussion, I guess. But yeah, I guess that does it for us today. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. As always, check out the description where you may find links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
And until next time, don't forget that Negus stick is there, and you gotta kiss that Negus stick.